Round.
I do. It looks cool. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Hope you can see me and the lovely Claire Wilkinson coming to you live in Fancy for the Mind. I hope you are all really well. If you are catching this live, tell us that you're live. Tell us how you're doing. And if you catch this on replay, give us a hashtag replay. It's really good to be here. I will catch up with any comments at the end. But Claire's here today. Claire Wilkinson, the legend that is Claire Wilkinson. I've known Claire for a very long time. And Claire is the person that first got me onto a stage in front of, how many were there? About 1,000 people.
There's
The first time that I was in front. And it was terrifying, but it's the first thing that kind of inspired me to think, you know what, I can do stuff like this. I can share my story with other people. So I will always be grateful for that, but I'll always be saying, Claire, you're the one that did it. Some may know Claire, some may not. Some may know what Claire's done in the past in regards to business and work. Some may not know what she's done. She may be brand new to you. What I do know that Claire has done recently is she has been to university. She's gone on an absolute epic journey, and that journey is continuing, but she's also changed direction a little bit. So we're going to first talk about how that's happened and what made you kind of change the direction that you were going in. What caused that to happen, Claire?
Thank you, and thank you for inviting me to talk in your group. It is a real honour, and actually I'm so incredibly proud of you because you have just gone through a huge transformation yourself since that very nervous.
I was shaking that day. I had the kids on stage.
That's relevant to something we're going to talk about today, actually. So you've done so phenomenally well. But yes, as some people may know, I was a long time ago in another product-based MLM business and loved the product. Business-wise, that didn't quite work out for me. Dabbled in a few things after that and then made the decision to move away, go to university and do some traditional learning with the intention of getting some traditional work. That was my plan. Then we had, the whole COVID situation, which we won't talk about too much right now, which put a little different spin on things for me. But then in the December of 2021, my little boy got really poorly. And as some of you know, he's my absolute rock and world. And you just know as a mummy when your little one is more poorly than the doctors think that they are. And without going into too much detail, it transpired to the point that we went into the bedroom to take him to the hospital because we weren't getting anywhere with the GP, only to find him completely unresponsive, couldn't wake him, he was just unconscious. Rang for an ambulance. We were told that Mark had to go out and get the defibrillator, which for a parent is just the worst.
Terrifying.
Yeah. And I was obviously left on my own with Jack while Daddy went out. Fast forward, it was a terrible viral infection that had got into his blood. He went into hospital, and just because he loves his mummy so very much, he decided that he would share that virus with myself. Not that I knew at that point. We came home, I then got it, but whereas Jack had gone into his bloodstream, for me it went to my heart, so it started to affect my heart, and I had big problems, and I was in hospital all over the new year. So at that point we'd had a really, really big wake-up call, both in terms of Jack, both in terms of myself, and I spoke to a friend of mine who is a holistic health practitioner, and she said, right, we need to look at gut health. Like, this is what we absolutely need to do. And I'd heard of it, but that was really the first point of like, oh, right, so what do I need to do? Do I need to take a few probiotics or something? Prebiotics, probiotics? That was as far as my knowledge had kind of gone. So that then put me on a journey of learning and discovery for my own health. And then that's actually transpired into me changing route university-wise, progressing to nutrition-based courses and knowledge and experience, because the more I've learnt, the more I just think, oh my goodness, I just want to help other people realize the importance of our gut, which is obviously why we're here today to talk about. I'm still new, I'm still learning, it's a journey, but I think there's so many of us that could actually learn together on this journey and actually make a huge difference to our lives. And yeah, so thank you for inviting me on to talk a little bit more.
Well, part of the reason that I've put this group together, and then it's called Pharmacy for the Mind and the Medication-Free Pharmacy, is I think a lot of us have had realizations that traditional approaches to the way that we look after our health don't necessarily work. Now, gut health is something I've heard of for many years, and like you, I just thought it was a probiotic or whatever you might need. I've only recently, I don't watch much TV anymore, but I've got a subscription to Gaia, and there's stuff on there about gut health. And I know you're going to go into some of the stuff that's mentioned on there, but it has opened my eyes and my mind so much to how important it is. So the gut-brain connection, what is it? So for those that are just kind of brand new to how this works and what it is, what actually is it?
Okay, so absolutely, I've tried to keep this session for people that maybe are just a probiotic or prebiotic kind of person. And I've made myself some notes so that I don't forget anything, because it's really easy to go off on a tangent. But
we can talk, Claire.
And we can talk. We can talk forever. And yes, so our gut and our brain have a really, really close connection. But before I go into that, did you actually know, Paul? I know you did, because I sent you a message about this, but people watching this live or on replay, that our gut has got more neurons than our brain. Like, that just blew my mind.
Blowing or gut blowing, whichever way you want to look at it.
And in fact, it's got hundreds of millions of neurons in our gut.
Yes.
Like, I just thought it was a bit of, like, I don't know, an organ. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I never realised it actually really did something.
Yeah.
And what about our gut instinct?
Yeah.
Yeah. We often say, don't we, what's your gut telling you? Well, there's actually a super highway between our gut, our GI system, and our brain. So we talk about trusting our gut. And that's because our brain is actually sending chemical messages to our gut without us even knowing about it. So it's our brain subconsciously telling us the answer to whatever our dilemma is. So trusting your gut is your subconscious way of answering that question or dilemma. That's testing your nerves. So I just find that, like,
you wouldn't think that they're connected, because your stomach is what holds the food you've eaten. And I know you're going to go on to this and how important that is, but you wouldn't think there's a connection. But this is scientifically backed. There is a connection.
There is a connection. Yeah, this is like years of research has proven this connection. So without getting too technical about this super highway is called our enteric nervous system. So we've all heard of our central nervous system, but this is a different nervous system. And this is a vast web of connections and interconnections that monitors our digestive tract, basically. So right from your esophagus, right the way down to our anus, this is all connected.
Yeah.
It's so extensive. And it actually operates on its own without having to have any input from our central nervous system, which again, I thought our central nervous system was responsible for everything.
Everything, yeah. And that's what we're told, isn't it?
Yeah. But actually our enteric nervous system, our gut, this brain-gut connection, doesn't actually need input because it's got so many neurons itself.
No. It's like a whole little world in itself then, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
That's incredible.
So it's actually as complex, right? Are you ready for this? As the neurons in our spinal cord.
Really?
Really?
I didn't.
Okay. And yet it's often overlooked. You know, we wouldn't choose to do anything or put our spinal cord at risk, would we? We would be we are so protective over our spinal cord. Yet we don't have the knowledge and the awareness of how to look after a system that is as complex.
And as important, if not more.
As this gut-brain connection. So this gut-brain connection is basically a network of neurons, a highway of chemicals and hormones, which again is something that we don't always appreciate. Our gut is responsible for a lot of our hormone regulation and a lot of chemicals that are released throughout our body in other ways. So when we are hungry or when we're stressed, when we've ingested something, perhaps a microbe that is actually going to make us unwell, our gut communicates with our brain and our brain communicates with our gut to deal with that situation. So that's why this is often called our second brain. Have you ever heard of that? Your gut is your second brain.
Because and now it makes more sense. Yeah, I have heard that.
So I hope that helps you with about what that gut-brain connection is and why it's so, why it's so important.
It does. It helps a lot. And if that connection then is out of sync, does it have to be synced together to be the most effective way of sort of living? If it's out of sync, what happens?
Yeah, so if you're looking for optimum health, then obviously you want that to be working like you would want any part of your body to be working effectively. If you've got a broken arm, it might still function, or a sprain or something, but it's not going to work as effectively, is it, as what it is when it's fit well and healthy. And that's the same for this gut-brain connection. So I'm going to be really boring, and we all know it's nothing that we don't know, but drinking, smoking, food additives, oxidized food are all preventable causes of the free radicals that can actually cause a problem with our gut-brain connection. So these actually deplete the good bacteria in your gut and in your digestive system and reduce those digestive enzymes. So we do need to explore those areas, and we'll probably talk about that a little bit later. But just as you see in nature, there's like an accumulation of good things that leads to a positive lifestyle. On the other hand, disrupting that good cycle within nature in our bodies can have the same impact in effect, which is going to lead you to an inability to digest your food effectively. You're not going to be able to absorb your nutrients effectively. So you're going to become more fatigued. You're going to become more tired. You're perhaps going to have some bloating. You might have sugar imbalances. These are all the areas of your life that can be affected by poor digestive health. And it goes back to, you've probably spoken about it before, disease, dis-ease. It's dis-ease within your digestive system. And again, sometimes you have to get down to the root causes. Smelly gas.
Okay.
It's not necessarily a pleasant one, and it's not something we might want to talk about, but that's a sign of a bad cycle going off.
Well, mine smell of roses, so I'm all
well,
right.
You're a woman, women always do, don't they? It's often for men, but we'll move on from that. But also our immune system. So our immune system has to battle the toxins that are in your intestine. So the health of your immune system is actually influenced by your digestive health. So again, your immune system is going to be the one that helps you overcome any illness or disease, which makes sense now why my friend said to me, Claire, you need to look at your digestive health, because I needed to improve my immune system. And yet you think of your immune system as, I just need to have some sunshine and I just need to eat some fruit and vegetables. And while they're all relevant, they're actually benefiting your digestive health as well. But actually, we need to do more than that.
I think as well, what you said about sort of, I'm going to be really honest, I'm always honest in this group, but years and years of things that you do that are negatively affecting your drinking, for example. I was known as a big drinker when I was younger, and I was always the life and soul of the party when I had a drink in me. I mean, that is a reflection of where I was at emotionally, because it was hard, you know, I was masking a lot of things. So if we're talking about emotional health, if we're talking about all of this as a whole, then in terms of emotional health, because that's where my passion lies, I know that drinking, I don't drink that much anymore because I don't need to. I don't feel that I need to mask anything. I'm much more complete and happy in myself. But if we're talking about emotional health, does the gut also govern that side of things, like mental illness and depression, anxiety, things like that?
Yeah.
But from what you're saying, I would say it does, because it's all got to be a complete sort of balanced picture. And sometimes we don't have that with past history and things like that. Can that be overcome as well? So
yeah,
if you used to be someone that liked to drink like I did, is that something that can be overcome?
Yeah, I mean, we'll explore some ways we can improve our digestive health in a few minutes, but this gut-brain connection is no joke. You know, it can be linked to anxiety and anxiety to stomach problems and vice versa. And we won't go into naming, you know, diseases. But have you ever experienced, and I know you have because you mentioned it at the beginning, but have you ever experienced nerves over something, you know, and you found yourself running to the bathroom? You've got a icky tummy because you're nervous about. Now, how does your bowel and your digestive system know you've got anxiety? That anxiety and those nerves that in your brain, it's communicating with your digestive system, which is then causing you to have that dicky tummy.
I not thought of it that way.
You're being nervous about giving a presentation and you actually feel physically nauseous.
Yes.
These things just demonstrate the power of this brain-gut relationship. You know,
and you know, just to add to that, Claire, sorry, but with belief coding and the stuff that I do as well, we believe that that's normal. It doesn't have to be the way it is, does it?
Go on. You carry on. Like that. So our GI, this gastrointestinal tract, is really sensitive to emotion. So anger, sadness, happiness, elation, any kind of emotion that is being released or experienced by the brain is going to be passed on to that gut. And the brain has a direct effect, therefore, on the stomach and the intestines. And a troubled intestine can also send signals the other way to the brain. So if you've got a bad gut, then it's going to send the negative messages to your brain, just like when you've got a troubled mind, it's sending the negative messages to your gut and it's affecting the bathroom.
So it's a two-way street, isn't it?
Street. If you've got a poor gut health, it can send poor health messages to your mind and to your brain, and then that can affect your anxiety and your depression. And then you're feeling anxiety and depression, and then it's affecting your gut, and then your guts, and it's this vicious cycle that you have to break, because it's a two-way.
I'm all for breaking cycles. That's so, that's huge, and it's fascinating.
And it's just like if you put a plate of food in front of you, your brain is already telling your stomach to start releasing those gastric juices because it's about to eat. You've not put food in your mouth yet, but your brain knows it's coming. So in anticipation of something that's coming, your brain is communicating with your gut. So what other situations can your brain anticipate and communicate with your gut that isn't such a positive one? So therefore a person's stomach or intestinal distress can be the cause or the product of anxiety or depression, to answer the question.
And it's all interconnected. And the more that I look into things like this, the more that I look into subconscious and psychology and sort of physical, spiritual and emotional, it's all interconnected. We've got to have that fine balance between all aspects of our lives in that way, which is actually a good point for my next question. How can that sort of the balance with your gut be maintained? What can you do to help that?
Okay, so the majority of things that I'm going to say are things that we all know.
Yeah.
So, we need to look at our diet and lifestyle. Fundamentally, that's what we need to do. You have to make quite an effort. This is not just a New Year's resolution where we start, maybe drinking a little bit more water, and then by February we drop that on the head. This is a real lifestyle change, and you need to just grow an awareness. And, maybe we'll talk about this in more detail at, another time. These stepping stones are all going to help you with long-term health benefits. So sometimes improving our gut health is not something that we visibly see today. We don't visibly see it tomorrow. We may, in a year's time, realize that actually, when I get a cold, it doesn't floor me like it used to.
Yes.
Oh, actually, 3 years down the line, do you know what? I've not had a flu. Or, oh, those feelings of anxiety that I used to get I'm not experiencing. So we can't look at gut health as a short-term fix. We can't just say, oh, I've started to eat better, I've started to drink more, I've started to exercise more, and expect those immediate, those immediate results. These are long-term, long-term efforts, individual efforts that together will accumulate. But we can increase our fiber. Fiber we know is great for our digestion, for our bowel. So we need to be looking at fiber. Make sure it's plant-based fiber. That's what we're looking for. It reduces the risk of metabolic diseases. So that's why we need to be increasing our fiber. Consider supplementation. Now, again, this is something that I've spent a lot of time and research on. And I don't want to go into too much detail right here, right now. And if you'd like me to come back and talk about the difference.
Yeah, definitely.
Between, 2 jars of product that says one does one and one does another. But all I would say is with supplementation, you need to be looking for plant-based supplements. Yeah. Supplements that are made from raw and whole foods. We don't want synthetic, mass-produced additives. What has been put in those as a bulking agent. Yes. There's so many things I could talk about, but I won't today.
No, I will definitely invite you back, because that's really interesting, because I think a lot of the time we're blinded by adverts, we're conditioned, as you know, and when we see things on the TV, or we see this, that and the other, or even on socials when we see someone saying, oh, I've been to Holland and Barrett and I've got this, if you've not looked at the actual ingredients and what's in it, and you're not aware of what to look for, you will definitely be coming back to give us some points on that.
You're going to get me talking about something I wasn't going to speak about, but actually sometimes you need an ingredient combined with another ingredient to get the best out of what you're taking. And actually sometimes the supplement that you're buying from somewhere else is just advertised as product A, and it hasn't got the extra in.
Okay.
It might be half the price because it hasn't got the extra in, but it's not, you're going to have to take it for a lot longer or a lot higher dose.
Yeah.
And actually our bodies are better at breaking down and using plant and raw whole food ingredients.
That's what we're designed to do.
It's synthetic. So anyway.
Yeah, no, sorry.
One more thing.
We could talk.
Just if you're supplementing, just make sure that the company you're purchasing from is in it for the health benefits of the product, not for profit. And
absolutely,
I'll be back.
Yes.
Exercise, exercise often. There's actually clinically proven trials now that show just movement. It doesn't have to be running, it doesn't have to be gym, it doesn't have to be swimming. Just move our bodies. Set yourself a timer on your phone after a set amount of time to just get up and walk to the other end of the house, and walk around your garden and then come back again. We are very sedentary, aren't we, in our lifestyle? You know, we will have been sat on this Zoom for half an hour shortly and not moved, and that's not what we're, you know, that's not what we're designed to do. So we need to just move more. Limit the alcohol.
Yeah.
If we can eliminate the alcohol, then that's obviously the ideal, but certainly limit it. I know previously I drank a lot.
Do you know
no more than that.
Alcohol's a really, sorry to think it, but alcohol's a really important one for me, because I believe that we're completely conditioned to drink alcohol.
Yes.
If you look at what that is, it's socially acceptable to drink alcohol. It's actually promoted, and people it's glamorized, and we think that's the norm. But if you look at what alcohol is, and I'm not going to go further than this, but it's actually a chemical.
Yeah.
We're drinking a chemical that people can put in cars. It's like, what have we been doing to ourselves? But we've all been there, and we've all been affected by that conditioning.
And the last one I would say is reduce stress. And I know a lot of us historically have used alcohol to reduce stress, but actually that doesn't work. You'd like, you know, it's a cycle again. So you know, sometimes you can come across as very blasé and saying, oh, reduce your stress, because if you've got stress and you're experiencing stress, it's not that easy just to say, oh, I've cut stress out. However, it is doable. So and again,
that leads nicely to
about that.
Well, on the 17th as well, because this will be a nice combination to bring you back in at some point. On the 17th at 1 p.m, I'm holding a masterclass on how to reduce stress and anxiety and overwhelm. So the practical tools that you can use, and we'll probably, I need to speak to you separately, but I will be asking you to come back around that time, and we can maybe combine efforts in regards to that, because there's practical tools that you can use, but there's also like other tools that you can use. So we can. Yeah,
I mean, I'd love to share more with you. I've obviously just kept it.
It's been amazing
now, but hopefully it's been of some interest, and hopefully it explains why I've moved. You know, why you know, I am obviously. I do share a belief in a certain range of product, but that's not to say that overrides my passion and belief for this new journey. So
and just to say about Jack as well, he is absolutely thriving. He's an absolute superstar, and he's fine after
he's made a full recovery. And actually I wasn't going to speak about this, but actually Jack had a dairy intolerance as a baby, so he had no dairy for the first few years of his life, and then it got gradually reintroduced. But he's also had a lot of antibiotics because of what's gone off, and that's a whole different story in terms of good health. But he has started on a regime for digestive health as well, and he actually comes to me now and says, Mummy, can I have one of my tummy tablets, please? My tummy's not right. So he knows
teach them young, and then
he feels the benefits of it. So
that's amazing, Claire. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge today.
You're
and sharing
welcome.
Your story as well, because I remember when you were going through all of that, and it was very difficult, and I know that it was.
It was.
So I'm just so glad that you've been here today. It's been lovely to see you, and I'm going
to be back.
And anyone that's watching, if there's questions or if there's anything you're unsure of, feel free to get in touch with Claire or myself.
Either directly, you know, or if you don't want to comment on this live, drop Paula a message anonymously. Well, not obviously, she'll know you, but she can ask me anonymously if there's if something you'd like to know. So absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So good to see you. Have a lovely day.
Thank you.
See you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.